The sun was beginning to set over the skyline of Los Angeles, painting the city in shades of coral and ash, when Electra Forrester stood alone on the balcony of her coastal home, the waves below whispering secrets that she could not quite decipher. The world around her was radiant. Her fashion line was thriving. Her name had finally begun to echo through the same glamorous corridors as Steffi's and Hope's, and yet there was a restlessness in her chest that refused to quiet. Perhaps it was exhaustion from living under the shadow of the Forrester legacy, or perhaps it was something darker, the sense that her carefully constructed life was beginning to fracture quietly from within. She had not yet realized that the first crack had already formed, and its name was Dylan. Dylan had arrived in Los Angeles as a stranger, a soft-spoken art teacher with a smile that concealed more than it revealed. Her connection to Electra had been immediate, almost too seamless. Two women drawn together by creative ambition, mutual admiration, and a shared loneliness that felt like recognition. At first, everyone in the Forrester circle had dismissed Dylan as harmless, an outsider enchanted by the glittering world of haute couture. But there was something about her calm that unsettled those who looked closely. Behind the polite laughter and the delicate brushstrokes of her work was a tension, the kind of silence that hums with buried truths. The truth began to surface the night Dylan broke down. It had been a quiet evening, one of those coastal nights where the ocean seems to swallow sound, when she came to Electra's house trembling. Her eyes were rimmed with red, her voice hollow. "I did something terrible," she whispered. And then she told her story, how she had been driving near the cliffs when Luna's car appeared out of nowhere, swerving wildly, headlights blinding through the mist. There had been a scream, a flash of impact, and then nothing but silence. Dylan claimed she had gotten out, shaken, disoriented, only to see Luna's car in flames down the embankment. "I didn't mean to," she said again and again, tears spilling down her face. "It was an accident." Electra remembered sitting there, frozen, feeling the weight of those words press into her like ice. Luna Nozoa. The name alone carried too much tragedy. Luna's death had haunted the Forresters for months, the unresolved investigation, the questions about whether it had truly been an accident, the speculation that someone had tampered with her car. Finn had never stopped looking for answers. Neither had Steffi. Now here was Dylan, her new best friend, confessing that she might have been the cause. But what struck Electra most wasn't guilt in Dylan's eyes, it was fear. The kind of fear that suggested she wasn't telling everything. In the days that followed, Electra promised to help her. "We'll get through this," she said, though the words felt foreign on her tongue. She tried to convince herself that Dylan was simply traumatized, that her story was true, that her confession was an act of remorse, not manipulation. But something didn't sit right. Dylan's version of events shifted slightly each time she told it. One moment Luna had been alone, the next she mentioned seeing another car. Some nights, Electra would catch her staring out the window for hours, murmuring under her breath as if replaying the scene in her mind. It wasn't long before the whispers began. People in the fashion district were talking, that Dylan's connection to Electra was strange, that her timing in arriving right after Luna's death was too convenient. One anonymous social media post claimed that Dylan had been seen in Luna's neighborhood weeks before the accident. Another suggested she had attended one of Luna's private art exhibitions under a false name. Electra tried to dismiss it all as gossip. But when she found an old sketch of Luna's face hidden in one of Dylan's art portfolios, the hair rising on her arms told her this was no coincidence. Her fear deepened when Dylan began showing signs of obsession. She started following Electra everywhere, to fittings, to photo shoots, even to charity galas. "I just feel safer around you," she said with that fragile smile, and though her tone was soft, her presence was suffocating. Once, Electra found her in her dressing room, sitting silently in front of a mirror, wearing one of Luna's scarves, an expensive silk piece from a past Forrester collection. When Electra demanded to know what she was doing, Dylan only smiled faintly. "It belonged to her, didn't it? It makes me feel close to her. Like I can understand what she lost." That night, Electra couldn't sleep. Every sound seemed magnified. The creak of the floorboards, the rhythmic crash of the waves, the faint rustle of movement somewhere in the house. She began to feel watched, even when Dylan wasn't around. But the most terrifying thing wasn't the fear of Dylan. It was the gnawing question of whether Luna was really dead. Fans of the bold and the beautiful had begun speculating about that possibility online, their theories spreading like wildfire. Maybe Dylan didn't hit Luna at all, one commenter wrote. Maybe the body they found wasn't hers. Another insisted, Luna could have switched clothes with someone that night, maybe a surfer girl she met on the beach. It was easy to dismiss such theories as fantasy, but Electra had seen enough strange twists in her life to know that nothing in Los Angeles was impossible. Still, she tried to ground herself in reason. She told herself that grief was making her paranoid, that Dylan's strange behavior was just guilt manifesting in unpredictable ways. But when she received an anonymous envelope one morning, no return address, just a single Polaroid of Luna standing on what looked like a pier, taken after her supposed death, the fragile boundary between reality and madness shattered. The photograph wasn't old. The colors were too vivid. Luna was alive. She confronted Dylan that evening. The air between them was tense, the room heavy with the scent of the ocean and rain. Electra threw the photo on the table. "Where did this come from?" she demanded. Dylan's face drained of color. "You shouldn't have that," she said quietly. "Who gave it to you?" Electra's heart pounded. "I'm asking you." For a long time, Dylan didn't answer. Then she looked up, her expression unreadable. "You don't understand, Electra. Luna didn't die that night. But she should have." The words hit like a physical blow. Electra stepped back, her breath catching. "What are you saying?" Dylan's tone shifted, colder now, detached. "It was never supposed to be her," she murmured. "Someone else was in that car. Someone who looked like her. Luna made sure of that. She wanted to disappear. She wanted everyone to think she was dead. And I helped her." Electra's mind reeled. "You're lying." Dylan's eyes glimmered with something like pity. "I wish I was. But you've seen the photo, haven't you? She's alive. She's been hiding. And now she wants something back." In that moment, Electra realized the trap she was in. If Luna truly was alive, then Dylan wasn't just a guilty bystander. She was an accomplice to something far larger. The confession about the accident had been a smokescreen, a way to draw Electra into her web. But why? What did Luna want with her? Over the following days, Electra's world began to unravel. Strange messages appeared on her phone. Blurry photos of her house, cryptic texts that said things like, "You can't design your way out of this," and "She knows the truth." Once, while driving home from Forrester Creations, she noticed a car in her rearview mirror following her for miles. When she pulled over suddenly, the car slowed too, then vanished down a side street. Finn, ever protective, offered to have security watch her home, but she refused. "I'm fine," she said with a shaky smile. "I can handle this." But she couldn't. The tension reached its peak the night Dylan appeared at her door again, drenched from the rain, her eyes wild. "She's coming for you," she whispered. "Luna's coming back." Electra stared at her, torn between terror and disbelief. "You're not making sense." Dylan grabbed her hand, fingers cold as ice. "You don't understand. She blames you. For everything. For taking what she deserved." "What did I take?" Electra demanded. Dylan's voice broke. "Her life. Her name. Her designs. You think your success is your own? She says it was hers first." In the flicker of the stormlight, Electra saw madness in Dylan's eyes, or perhaps conviction so deep it looked like madness. She pulled away, shaking. "Get out," she said. "You need help." But Dylan didn't move. Her face softened suddenly, almost tender. "I tried to protect you," she whispered. "But it's too late now." The following morning, Electra awoke to find her studio ransacked. Sketches shredded, fabric torn, mannequins overturned. But what chilled her most was the single note pinned to her design board, written in familiar handwriting. "You stole my dream. Now I'll take yours." The investigation that followed led nowhere. Dylan vanished, her apartment abandoned. The police found traces of burned documents, fake IDs, and a handful of photos of Luna and Electra together, some genuine, some clearly doctored. Finn believed Dylan had suffered a breakdown. Ridge suspected industrial sabotage. Brooke feared Sheila Carter might somehow be involved again. But Hope, ever the intuitive one, said softly, "Sometimes ghosts aren't the ones who haunt us. It's the people we didn't want to see clearly." Weeks passed, and though the public moved on, Electra couldn't. Every time she walked into her studio, she felt Luna's presence. Not the ghost of a woman dead, but the shadow of one still alive, watching. And late at night, when she stood by the window overlooking the restless sea, she sometimes thought she saw a figure on the cliffs, dark hair whipping in the wind, standing perfectly still. She would blink, and it would be gone. No one ever confirmed what had happened to Luna. Some believed Dylan had fabricated everything out of guilt and delusion. Others swore Luna was still alive, waiting for the right moment to reclaim her identity. But Electra knew the truth, or rather, she felt it in her bones. Because one evening, months later, she received a package at her door. No return address. Inside was a sketchbook, her own style, her own name signed on the cover, but the designs inside were not hers. They were Luna's. On the last page, a message written in that same delicate hand: "You can't outdesign destiny." And somewhere beyond the horizon, perhaps on another coast, Luna Nozawa smiled as the tide rolled in, her secret safe for now, her vengeance only beginning. The line between the living and the dead had blurred once again, and Electra Forrester, the woman who thought she had it all, realized that some dreams are never truly yours. They only ever belong to the darkness that created them. The night Electra Forrester died was not the kind of night anyone could have predicted. The city was calm, wrapped in the velvet quiet that comes after a storm, and from the outside, her coastal mansion glowed with the warm, golden light of luxury. Inside, however, the air was heavy, filled with the scent of fear and sea salt. Her assistants had gone home early. The security cameras were conveniently under maintenance. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to leave her alone at the exact moment her story was meant to end. Electra had been on edge for days. Every reflection, every sound had begun to feel like a warning. She had tried to convince herself she was safe, that Dylan was gone for good, that Luna, if she were truly alive, was somewhere far away. But as night fell and the waves beat against the rocks below, she couldn't shake the sensation that the house was breathing with her, listening. The sketchbook Luna had sent sat open on her work table, the message, "You can't outdesign destiny," staring at her like a prophecy. She poured herself a glass of wine, her hands trembling as she tried to focus on the designs scattered across the table. Work had always been her refuge. But tonight, even beauty couldn't protect her. There was a hum in the air, not sound, exactly, but energy, like the stillness before lightning strikes. She caught sight of her reflection in the window, pale and tense, and for a fleeting second, she thought she saw another figure standing behind her. When she turned, the room was empty. Her phone buzzed. One new message. No number. Just a single sentence. "Ready for your final fitting?" She froze, the glass slipping from her hand and shattering on the marble floor. The message was cryptic, but the phrase cut deep. Luna used to say that during fittings, a playful tease before the runway shows. Her heart hammered as she glanced toward the locked door, half expecting someone to be standing there. But there was only silence. She tried calling Finn, then Ridge, but both went unanswered. Forrester Creations had long since learned to treat fear as melodrama, and Electra's warnings over the past weeks had sounded too much like nerves. She moved through the house carefully, each step echoing louder than the last. The power flickered once, twice, and then steadied. Outside, the ocean churned violently under the moonlight, its waves crashing harder than before. The wind rattled the glass, almost as if it were knocking. In her bedroom, she found the first real sign that she wasn't alone. Someone had placed a dress on her bed, A gown of silver silk and black lace, her own design from years ago. It was one of Luna's favorites. A note lay pinned to the bodice. "Wear it and you'll be free." Her throat tightened. She backed away, shaking her head. "No," she whispered, though there was no one to hear her. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she turned to run, but the hallway lights blinked out, plunging the house into darkness. Somewhere near the living room, a door creaked. She grabbed her phone, fumbling for the flashlight, but before she could switch it on, a whisper floated from the shadows. "You stole from me." Electra spun around, the beam of light sweeping across the room. It caught on a figure standing near the stairs, a woman, dripping wet, her hair clinging to her face, her eyes glinting like shards of moonlight. For a heartbeat, Electra thought she was hallucinating. "Luna?" The woman stepped forward, her voice low and calm, almost tender. "You took my name, my art, my life." Electra stumbled back, shaking her head. "That's not true. You're dead." Luna, or the thing that looked like her, smiled faintly. "No, Electra. You made sure everyone thought I was. You became me." Her mind raced. "You don't understand. I didn't want this. I never wanted to replace you." Luna tilted her head. "But you didn't stop it, did you?" Her voice softened to a whisper. "You just kept creating. You just kept taking." Electra's tears spilled as she backed toward the kitchen, grabbing the first thing she could, a pair of scissors from the counter. "Stay away from me," she said, her voice trembling. Luna stepped closer, the sound of wet footsteps echoing on the tile. "You think you can cut me out like fabric?" "I'm sorry," Electra pleaded. If you're really here, we can fix this. Please." Luna's eyes glistened. "Fix this," she murmured, almost thoughtfully. "There's only one way to fix this." And before Electra could react, the lights went out again. The scream that followed was brief, cut off too quickly, swallowed by the roar of the storm outside. When the power returned minutes later, the room was still. The scissors lay on the floor, slick with red. The dress on the bed was gone. By morning, the police were swarming the estate. Finn arrived first, pale and shaken, having received a frantic message from Ridge about something terrible at Electra's place. The officers were already setting up tape around the property when he pushed past them. The scene inside was a chaos of blood and broken glass. There was no sign of forced entry. No fingerprints that didn't belong to Electra. But in the center of the room, propped on her shattered design table, was a mannequin dressed in the missing gown, the silver and black silk, glistening wet, as if pulled from the ocean. On the mannequin's neck hung Electra's necklace. Pinned to the bodice was another note. "Now she wears what's mine." The coroner's report was chilling. Electra's body had been found hours later, floating near the shore below the cliffs. Cause of death: deep lacerations consistent with scissors or shears, the kind she used in her studio. There was no sign of struggle. No defensive wounds. The killer had been fast, precise, almost intimate. The news sent shockwaves through the Forrester family. Brooke wept on live television. Ridge demanded answers the police couldn't give. Steffi locked herself in her office for hours, refusing to speak to anyone. But Finn, more than anyone, couldn't let it go. The manner of death was too specific, too theatrical. The way the gown had been staged, the ocean symbolism, it was all deliberate. Someone wanted to send a message. Then there was the footage. 2 nights later, security technicians recovered partial data from the broken cameras. The video was grainy, distorted by the storm, but in one frame, a figure appeared outside the house, a woman walking barefoot toward the front door. Her face was hidden by her hair, but her build, her posture, was unmistakable. It was Luna Nozawa. Or so it seemed. Finn refused to believe it. He examined the footage again and again, but every frame deepened the mystery. The timestamp was impossible, recorded the same hour Luna's car had exploded a year earlier. Someone had manipulated the files, splicing old footage with new.
But why?
Then came the letter. Delivered directly to Forrester Creations, addressed to the one who knows the truth. No name, no return address. Inside, a single page, handwritten in elegant cursive. Electra is free. But the others still owe. The others, no one knew who that meant. Some thought it referred to the Forresters. Others whispered about Sheila Carter, about her rumored involvement with Dylan, about her hand in resurrecting Luna's name. Brooke swore she saw a familiar car near the estate the night before the murder. A black SUV, the same kind Sheila used to drive. But no one could prove it. The investigation dragged on. Dylan remained missing. Luna's body, if she was truly dead, was never recovered. And as the months passed, the story transformed into legend. The tabloids called it the Forrester curse, spinning tales of fashion, fame, and revenge. But for those who had loved Electra, the pain never dulled. Finn, late one night, returned to the cliffs where she had been found. The sea was calm now, deceptively gentle. He stood there for hours, staring into the darkness, until he heard something faint, a voice carried on the wind. It was soft, feminine, familiar. You can't out-design destiny. When he turned, there was nothing there, just the endless horizon, black and eternal. But far below, where the waves met the rocks, something glimmered under the water, a silver thread of fabric, swaying like it still belonged to a living woman. And for a fleeting moment, Finn could have sworn he saw her, Luna, or what was left of her, watching him from beneath the surface, her lips curling into a knowing smile. By morning, that fabric was gone. Only the tide remained, whispering the same name again and again as if it were part of its rhythm. Electra, Electra, Electra. Los Angeles moved on, as it always did, its glittering surface hiding the rot beneath. But the Forrester mansion would never be the same. The gowns in Electra's final collection, once meant to represent rebirth, were left unfinished, hanging like ghosts in her studio. And every now and then, when the staff worked late, they swore they could hear the sound of scissors cutting through silk, slow and deliberate, echoing from the darkness. No one dared to go check, because in the world of the bold and the beautiful, death was never really the end. And the dead, especially those wronged by beauty, always came back, sharper, darker, and far more dangerous than before.